Real quick before we start the video, I wanted to ask that if you know anyone that might enjoy my channel, to please share it with them. I would really love to grow an audience and create a really cool community full of radical people. So yeah, that's all. Enjoy the video. Okie doke. So today we're going to be doing another character design, and this time it's sort of one that's already designed. It's the Warden from the Caves and Cliffs update from Minecraft that just came out. I don't know if anyone watched the Minecraft Live broadcast, but basically they announced the next big update, and it is a very big one. Since I play Minecraft on this channel and do art, I thought I might do a quick sketch and drawing of the Warden. You can see him down in the bottom left there from the game. I also have some other references from things that I thought kind of fit with the Warden. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to get in a very general shape and pose, and I know it looks super silly. The Warden himself kind of looks silly, but this is what we're doing. The things that I have on the left there, we have Groot from Marvel Comics. We have the Hard to Destroy Lizard from SCP. And we have a shambling mound from Dungeons and Dragons. So what I'm doing is I'm basically getting in this sort of rough shape of the whole sort of sketch, and then I'm drawing it in. This is a reference here for the type of mushroom that I'm kind of sketching off of. The whole Deep Dark in this new Minecraft update is kind of based around the idea of like a fungus, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm now starting on another portion of his arm, and I'm using lichen for this one, which you can see here. And basically I'm just going to go section by section, kind of creating the design that I think the Warden fits. So the Warden's a pretty weird mob that's being added to the game. They are completely blind, and that's super interesting. Minecraft has never had something really like that before. They're entering in an entirely new game mechanic, which is vibrations. So the more you move and the more you do, the more the Warden sees you. I'm now moving on to some like different kinds of fungus that might be growing on him. These are a little further away from the original design, but I thought they kind of fit and they looked cool. There's these like little sprout type fungus that I thought could grow on his back. But yeah, so and for that sort of sprouty fungus, here's my reference for it. Basically just these little sprouty boys that come out of the ground. But the Warden is a weird mob, and he's pretty freaky, has a ton of health, does a ton of damage, and is just all sort of disconcerting. This is the reference I'm using for the stuff on his head. You can see there in the original design, the top of his head's like blue and looks like it's like hanging down. So I thought of Spanish moss, and I thought that like I could kind of cover his head, sort of like the girl from The Ring. To like cover the face. Doesn't have eyes, and kind of what I'm imagining the Warden is just this like living growth and mass of like fungus and mushroom and various stuff like that. If you look in the original character, or in the original mob design down there, they have what looks like bone sort of protruding out. I kind of changed that into being this like bark-like fungus that's growing over portions of the body as a like armor. As I move up to the antenna, I start going with these like glowing mushrooms that I thought are kind of cool looking, and we'll see I use them as a light source later. The interesting thing about the Warden is that he lives in the Deep Dark, and in the Deep Dark, basically everything's based on vibrations because there is no light. And whenever your character steps, or you throw a snowball, or an arrow hits the ground, really anything, it creates vibrations. And the Warden's antenna pick up those vibrations. So I wanted to make the Warden look like you could pick up vibrations from around. So the sprouty fungus I think of as kind of like a vibration receptor for him. And then the fungus on top of his head, the glowing mushrooms that are as an antenna, are his main source of sort of reading vibrations. You can see now I'm doing the feet and the legs. Same way I did the hands. Basically, I'm creating this like bark-like fungal growth and then lichen that's sort of sprouting out of it. I thought that was kind of a cool design to have like these layers of like fungus all coming out of each other. After I finish that, I start doing a little bit more detail stuff. I'm going to finish his other hand over here, which I actually have a little bit of a hard time getting right, just because of the pose of the hand. Typically, I wouldn't find that too bad, but because the Warden, I'm only giving the Warden 3 fingers, it was pretty strange to do. You can see I changed it pretty drastically right there. So yeah, he's kind of reaching out. The original design, obviously, because Minecraft doesn't have hands, it's just blocks, cubes, but I thought it would be interesting to give him hands. You can see on the original design, the Warden also has this like big gaping mouth, and I thought like, how would a fungus growth have a mouth? And all I could think of is like if the like fungus was like splitting open and there was like this chasm going into the growth. So that's kind of what I did. I made it look like the fungus was just separating, and inside you'll see sort of like a glowing center. But now I move on to the chest, and the Warden has this like open chest cavity where there seems to be some sort of glowing thing inside. I decided to make that glowing thing more sort of fungus, like more glowing fungus. So yeah, and now, before we move on to coloring and shading, I think I have a friend that would like to say something real quick. Here he is. Okay, hi, I'm my own friend, it's me, Dak. Anyways, so the thing I wanted to tell you was I have a Patreon page, and if you'd like to go support me on Patreon, you totally can now. Well, why should you support me on Patreon? Well, the answer to that is a pretty simple answer. It's great! You should go support me on Patreon right now. It's so fantastic, it's so good, it helps me do better things. So yeah, go do that. It'll be cool. Better videos. Anyways, go back to the video now. Have a good time. Hope you enjoyed this. Bye! Okay, so we're going to get back here and we're going to go ahead and now color in the Warden. So what I've done here is I've filled in the entire profile with just gray. I'm going to block in some colors. I actually don't like the way I regionally do it, so I actually go back, take out the gray backing, and make a few clipping masks with different shades of gray in them. Basically, I do a clipping mask for the sort of bark-like stuff, a clipping mask for the main body, one for the lichen and the moss together, one for the inside of the Warden, and one for the antennas. So I end up with a bunch of clipping masks, but not anything I can't handle. So basically that's what it is. So while I'm selecting layers and filling things in with gray here, which you can see they'll slowly go in and fill in with kind of generalized grayscale colors, the Warden, as I was mentioning earlier, is sort of leaves in the deep dark. So when I do the coloration here, that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to try to stick as close as possible to the original coloration. So I'm actually color picking, like I'm selecting from the original design and blocking in those colors using the colors that were originally created by Mojang. And then I put in what I'm going to kind of use as a light source, just like choosing a place for the light to be, and I decided to put it real close to the ground, as if maybe like there's these things called skulk sensors in the Caves Cliffs update, and they don't actually put out light, I don't think, in the update, but I thought it would be cool if it was like kind of like a glowing mushroom on the ground that was lighting up this monster. After I do that, I go ahead and move on to some of the other lighting, which we've got that like weird glowing thing in his chest. He also has like ribs that you can see in the original design, so I went ahead and put those in, and then you can see his innards come literally out because I am messing around with layers there, but then I put them right back where they went from. After I get that done and just get some like general block colors in, I fiddle around with sort of his rib cages and insides for a bit, and then I start creating what I sort of deem as his heart. See, in the original design there's like a bigger massive glowing something, so I decided there was going to be like one big glowing mushroom surrounded by like little insinuations of other glowing mushrooms. So I go ahead and draw one big mushroom in there. And then after that, I'm going to move on to sort of shading. So after I've got the block colors in, I go ahead and put on a multiply layer, play around with it a bit, decide to wait a sec, and then do some glowing effects real quick. And then I go back to that multiply layer. So I decided between a few different like blending modes, and I ended up going with hard light. So like 50% gray, which is what's there, is going to just show up as basically nothing. And anything darker is going to show up as shadow, and anything lighter is going to show up as like highlights. So basically I fill in the entire design with just gray, and then I'm going to go in and do the shadows first. And for this one I'm doing cell shading, which are very hard line shadows. It's not as realistic, but I'm not really going for a super realistic feel with this. I just wanted like a cool sort of like, as if he's being shined upon by a glowing mushroom right in front of him. So real hard light here. Basically what I'm doing is just filling them in. I really like the idea from the update, from the game, that everything in here is like super duper dark, and the only light sources around are either ones that you place like torches, or like glowing mushrooms, glowing fungus, stuff like that. Everything in the deep dark is like kind of covered in this like black sort of, I guess, lichen. It's this like black mat of something. They haven't really said what it is except for that it's called skulk, and it's sort of like a growth. So I imagine that the Warden is also sort of made of similar stuff, or at least has that growing on them. So I want to make everything very dark. So heavy shading on most of the Warden, and then you can see there I switch it over to the hard light so that it is now multiplying and changing what it's on top of instead of actually just being its own thing. I then put it over the original coloring, so we've got some shading in there now, and I start doing some highlights. I'm doing the highlights in white right now because it's easier for me to see and kind of get an idea of. And as soon as I sort of finish them up, which happens here in a sec, I will tint them back to be blue because I want the light source to be this like blue tinted, like glowing mushroom. I also did sort of account for his antenna and his mouth and his chest being light sources. I thought that the general body was too dark to really see anything, so I went ahead and put in some like light blue texturing in there. And then you can see there I just put in that blue texture, or the blue tint. Up here I'm creating a glow effect for his antenna, because I thought those would be cool as like glowing mushrooms, and they kind of look like it in the original. And after that I'm mostly done, so that you can see it better, I put it on a dark background. I get rid of my construction stuff. And from here on out, it's mostly me just moving it around to get it to a nice position to look at. I throw in like just some Minecraft background image that I could find and pop him in the middle, because that's kind of where he lives, just in the caves of this video game. I did realize that I was a little messy on my filling, so I actually have to go back here and like delete some like remnant lighting on the edges there from the coloration. Don't really know what caused that, but can fix it at some point. So here he is. This is the Warden. I hope you guys like my design for the Warden. It's definitely spooky. I try to stick as close to the original as possible, and I hope that everyone else is super excited for this Caves and Cliffs update. As always, remember to like, subscribe, and ring the bell icon to get notifications for when I post videos. I would really appreciate if you shared this with your friends, trying to reach a larger audience, so just share with anyone that you might think might enjoy it. I hope everyone has a good day.